For those of you who don't know me, I'm Christina Belperia. I'm the Policy and Partnerships Manager at the Tourism Industry Council. I've just recently come back from maternity leave, so I have been off the radar for about a year, but it's fantastic to be back and see what's going on across our industry and across our state over the past year. Before we do start, I would like to acknowledge that I'm hosting this webinar from the lands of the Kaurna people. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands where you all join us from today and the First Nations people participating in this webinar. I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and celebrate the diversity of First Nations people and their ongoing cultures and connections to the land and waters of South Australia. So our In Conversation series are short webinars as part of our business development program here at TiCSA. We like to provide our wonderful tourism operators like yourself the opportunity to get insights and advice that can help you with your business planning and operations. And these In Conversations are really great short snippets as to get those insights from fabulous experts out there across our industry. So while I'll be asking a number of questions today, these sessions are very much open to your input and your questions as well. So please don't hold back. You're welcome to pop questions in the chat function and I can either bring them up during the conversation or we'll have a Q&A session towards the end as well. I do ask you though to keep your microphones on mute and that for everyone's information, this session is being recorded and it will be distributed to everyone who registered after we're all done. So let's kick off. So today we're talking about business events here in Adelaide and the many array of opportunities that are available for tourism operators to partner with Business Events Adelaide to make the most of current and future opportunities. While you may not be directly involved in the business events yourself, we can't stress enough about how much opportunity there is for operators to capture event delegates and enhance their experience while they're here in South Australia, to increase expenditure, build meaningful relationships, which all contributes and assist with return business for both Business Events Adelaide as well as tourism operators like yourself. So today we're joined by the wonderful Jackie Govan, who's the General Manager of Bid Management at Business Events Adelaide, and Mark Phelps, Business Development Manager at Business Events Adelaide. Welcome, Jackie and Mark.
Thank you so much.
Great. To start with, perhaps, Jackie, if you could tell us a bit about, tell the listeners and what they're likely to get out of this session and what we're going to cover.
Yeah, no problems. We're going to try and answer the questions fairly quickly so you've got opportunity at the end to ask questions. But what I'm hoping you'll get out of it is probably what I got out of it when I first learned about what Business Events Adelaide does, and that basically you can get quite a lot of business midweek outside of school holiday time if you tap into it, depending on the operators you are. So I'm also very happy to tell people who won't get any business out of it as well, and also to tell you how we work.
Great. So I reckon what we probably should do is get a bit about yourself and your background, Jackie.
Sure, no worries. And of course, I've got Mark with me here who will give you a bit of background, but I think that most people in the room already know Mark. So my background is hotels, casinos and destination management, both internationally and nationally. I'm an Adelaide person, but I lived for about 16 years in Sydney. And prior to joining Business Events Adelaide, my most recent thing was I opened the Sofitel Adelaide.
Just a small feat on your resume there, Jackie.
That's it. Good fun
yes. Too. Great. And Mark, for those who don't know you, introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks, Christina. Yeah, it's good to see some familiar faces that have joined us today. So sorry for going over some perhaps old ground for you guys, but for the new ones who I haven't met with yet, I've had 25 plus years in the tourism industry, worked as an inbound tour operator, worked in hotel sales, worked for a large coach company in Melbourne, regional tourism, and 11 years at SATC. So just recently joined Business Events Adelaide earlier this year. And I know, you know, when I worked for the coach company in Melbourne, one of the first things I did was to reach out to the Melbourne Convention and Visitors Bureau and really target that business event and incentive market. So it's good to have that bit of background coming into this role, and yeah, looking forward to helping everyone out.
Great. I'm sure Business Events Adelaide are happy to have you on board as well, Mark.
We really are, and I can't stop smiling about it.
Amazing. All right, Jackie, well, how about you tell us a bit about the role of Business Events Adelaide and then your role in the organisation?
No worries. So we are a not-for-profit organisation. We're partly state funded and city council funded, and also we have our own membership set up. And our job is to win events from outside of South Australia, which are business events. So that means conferencing, meetings, world congresses, incentives, where basically it's a business decision. So if you think of South Australian Tourism Commission as everything that is kind of leisure, and also the major sporting events and festivals and those sorts of things, think of us as the business events, which might on occasion sound a little bit boring, like International Renewable Energy Congress or mental health and nursing or neuroscience. However, there's a lot of people and they come midweek and they spend money, which is great.
Absolutely. And so what has the past 12 months looked like for business events in South Australia?
Sure. So basically our team was very small. Like many people, we had been reduced because of COVID. I joined in October, and I have to say for a very small team, they were already punching way above their weight. So if you think about the fact that the previous financial year, they converted $250 million worth of business from outside of the state or outside of the country of people coming to South Australia, and somewhere like Sydney had converted 132 million, you can see what I mean by punching above their weight. Now, the reality is we were behind the 8 ball and we still have aviation issues. But since October, when I've started, we're now really full steam ahead. So where we've changed a bit is we've increased our international team members, hence Mark, who focuses on international, is here. And we've also appointed a lady called Helen, who spends half her time in Sydney and half her time in Asia to really work on those Asian incentive pieces of business. So if you think about the international events as either being great big Asian incentives or great big international association congresses, and then also the all-important national business, which is either great big corporate meetings or great big association conferences. So we target everything above 300. But if someone rings us with a 20-person incentive from New Zealand, we're certainly going to help them.
Sure. And when you say incentive, could you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So generally incentives are for salespeople in an organisation that have reached their target. So for example, we've just locked away a small one out of New Zealand, which I think is 34 people from Harvey Norman, New Zealand. And those Harvey Norman people will have reached some target. And so instead of being given a bonus in cash, they're given a bonus as a trip. And then what happens is that incentive agent, much like a travel agent, will plan out that group's experience. So whether they're arriving in Adelaide and going to do a tour of the Barossa, or fly to Kangaroo Island, or go up the Murray on houseboats, whatever they're going to do, they'll come to an organisation like us to give them the advice and help them get introductions to people. When you're talking about a great big Asian incentive, quite often that could be in the thousands, and they will come in waves. So you might have 200 people that come day 1 to 3, another 200 that come day 4 to 7, another 200, etc. And they would repeat exactly the same tours and options, etc., as the other groups did, because they've all won an incentive through Herbalife or New Skin or whatever it is that they were working on. And then, of course, the conferences and congresses, many of which are held in the city at the Adelaide Convention Centre or the Hilton or Stanford or out at the Barossa at Novotel, they will always have their couple of days before or after that they'll go visit the regions, and we're influential in telling them where to go, so to speak.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that explanation. Just helps to break it down a bit more. And I guess with that in mind, you've talked about what the last 12 months looks like. What does the next 12 to 24 months look like?
Well, I'm looking at you with a bit of pressure on here, Mark, but the reality is the business that we've won for the next 12 months was won in the last few years. So basically we have a list of events. I think the biggest month of the year for business events this year already was May. I think the next biggest month will be October. But there are, thousands of delegates coming in every month. 90% of those are midweek. And then what we're working on now is the future of the events that are coming in.
So that's beyond 2 years' time.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Once again, I got an inquiry myself yesterday because some of the clients still just ring me directly, probably because of my previous life in hotels. And sorry if we've lost some vision there.
Yep, we've got you back again.
And I had an inquiry for this November. So sometimes they're coming in at short lead. The other interesting thing is we had an international event that suddenly decided they didn't want to have their event in Russia, no big surprise. And they've got in touch with us for an event within the next 10 months. So in my old days of hotels, short lead was within a week. Now in this world, short lead's probably within 3 to 6 months. But the other thing I think that's interesting is when a congress is won, so let's say there's something happening this October, they still haven't decided every single thing they're doing. So it might be locked away, it might be marketed, the delegates might have agreed to come, but then there's a whole bunch of other events that come around that. So Mark, you might want to talk a little bit about that, like when events have satellite meetings and so forth, the inquiries you guys get.
Yeah, so quite often, as Jackie mentioned, we're working 3 to 4 years in advance to win these events. But that's primarily, let's locking in a venue and getting it to the destination. In the 12 months leading up to the actual event taking place, they're still working out their programs, social functions, dinners, site tours, pre and post leisure touring as well. So those are all things that are coming a lot closer to the actual event. So there's still those short lead opportunities, even though we might have won the business to Adelaide 3 or 4 years ago. So still opportunities that are very nearby.
Yeah, great. And perhaps with that segue, Mark, maybe we start to, from an operator perspective out there, how they could start tapping into those opportunities and attracting those visitors to their businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great start. We are open to discussions with anyone. Working with us, we can create some opportunities for businesses. We attend a lot of trade events nationally and internationally, working hard to bring the events to Adelaide. It's quite competitive out there, competing with destinations from around the world and even nationally. So I think, from our perspective, it's getting an understanding of, their business, what you've got to offer, and how we can then align that with some of the bids that we're actually pitching for, because they are quite targeted. As Jackie mentioned, some of the variety of, sectors that we're working in. If there's a sustainability conference that we're working on, we try to match that with the venues and the products that we're pitching for, to make sure that, that all aligns with the sector. So, appreciate trying to find out a little bit more about the products that have perhaps joined us today and going forward as to how we might be able to work.
I think one of the things that I find really helpful, because I keep learning more about our own state as I go along, is those products and services that really can manage groups. So where there can be a buyout of a venue where someone's got, 50 scooters or bicycles that they can take groups around in, wineries that can put up marquees out the back that can take large groups. So whilst we do deal with some smaller groups, we really want that understanding of what they can do for the larger ones.
Sure. And Kathy's just popped a question in there that is there a direct contact we can get to introduce ourselves to businesses and look at opportunities? So I guess to me, that's a bit of a two-pronged question, which is liaising and building relationships with yourselves, but also are you saying that when these groups come, you become that liaison point, I guess, for business matching and opportunity matching?
Yeah, quite often we do. Basically what happens is it's twofold. So people can become a member and then they actually get the opportunities report and they've got all the direct contacts with everyone. And that we can talk about separately. But I think the most important thing for today is really to understand how it works. So if we've won a great big conference, what will happen is that a professional conference organiser will be appointed to that conference by the conference themselves. If we've won a great big incentive, then it's likely that a incentive agent will be appointed and then they're going to do most of the liaison. If those conference organisers or incentive agents are not located in South Australia, which 9 out of 10 times they're not, they're going to come to us and ask us for our advice. And we're going to provide the advice we have on our own experience, as well as what matches to them. So I think while we're happy to have any questions today, I suggest that if anyone's very serious about this business, that they do jump on the website, have a little bit of a look, give Mark or myself a call. We can certainly introduce you to the membership side of the business. But for a small business, we understand that, you know, being members of everyone can be a little bit challenging. One of the things to point out for the regional guys is anything you do see on the website, if you're regional, it's 50% off. But we're very happy to talk to you about just how to tap into those conferences anyway, because they are in the public realm. So what I guess I would be doing, and I know we've got a mixture of people here, but if you're a hotel, it's fairly obvious you need to get in there pretty soon, because once a conference is booked, they're doing their accommodation blocks. If you are travel and transport, you probably need to be in touch with them, I would say 6 months in advance. If your tours and so forth, it's really important we know about all the touring side, because as part of our contracting with these conferences, we actually have them send a communication out to their delegates about 6 weeks before for national and about 3 months before for international, actually telling them what's going on in South Australia. So they click on that link and then they see that sort of information. So if you've got special information, then by all means share that with us. I know there are a number of our members here today. And for those members, they know that they can also get sort of one-on-one training about this as well.
Yeah, great. I guess what's always useful is any examples
Sure.
of successful partnerships and just helping us understand what that might look like. You've obviously just broken it down a little bit into different subsectors, but yeah,
Sure.
some examples would be fantastic.
Yeah, no problems. So, for example, we've had inquiries in the past for the large group incentive business, and what we needed is the different regions to work together to be able to provide a solution. So, for example, if you were talking about something like McLaren Vale, and I'm just throwing this as an example out there, we would get them to work together so they were, because no one wants to go to one winery or do one experience. They actually want to do multiple things. So getting the partners that are located in that region to talk to each other and work out on those particular days of the week what was the best timing for them to have them at winery 1, 2 and 3, where was the right place to do the barbecues, how they could compare, that they were giving the same food products so we could actually get that 200 group into 3 different wineries. That's an example. Another is things like transport, working with central markets. So when a group comes in and does an amazing race around the markets to buy all this product, the transport guys are then there to kind of collect the shopping, get it back to the place they're staying in, so these guys can then go to their next point of call before they end up at a Weber Barbecues to cook that product. So it's a lot about us partnering and reintroducing people to each other providing a concept, and then the guys working together to get that concept and I guess share the revenue. So one of the things that's quite interesting about all of this is the average spend of a conference delegate is 3 times that of a visitor, a normal tourism visitor. And when we're talking incentives, it can be 6 times. So some of these guys will say to them, what's your budget? And they go, our budget is $1,000 a day, not including accommodation and air. So that means they've got $1,000 to spend on what that person does in that day as part of a group, which would be, you know, transport, a meal, a tour, or something else. And we've been dealing with people who've got up to $2,500 a day for those individual people and everything they do. Now, in addition to that, they'll tell us the timing they have, when they've got to get them back to their city hotel, all that sort of stuff. So we rely on all the operators to be able to put things together for us. And I guess the other thing to add with the partnerships is when we come out to operators, incentives particularly are looking for unique. Now, we all think, you know, it's just a matter of reskinning something, but they really do need unique. Now, whether that's an owner coming and telling a story about whatever that business is, whether it is branding the helmets on the bikes with their company, whatever it is, we need them to be able to come up with something that you can't just buy off their website.
Yeah, right. It really, I always knew business events were a very lucrative part of our tourism industry, but this is, I think the next level of detail is really blowing my mind at the moment. I don't know about others.
The other thing that really blew my mind was how much work and time it takes to win these things.
Yeah.
It's very, very different to my old life. You know, I'm thinking about, you know, some of the work Mark's been doing lately, and this is more for the conference side of things. But we don't just go, here's beautiful South Australia, it's clean, green and got the best wine and we're the best people. If they're putting together an event that is about farming, we actually have to show our strengths in South Australia at farming. We have to get letters from associations. We've got to show examples. There's all sorts of work that needs to be done, because when they're choosing a place for their conference, you know, you wouldn't do a surf lifesaving conference in Alice Springs, for example. You have to be able to show your strengths. And then when it comes to the incentive side of the business, Damien, our CEO and our Director of Sales for Asia, have just flown all around Asia presenting Adelaide, who most people really hadn't heard of, and then talking about why they can have all these amazing exclusive Australian experiences and don't necessarily need to go to Sydney. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, and the more we know about the unique products that are out there in South Australia, the more chance we've got of winning this stuff.
Yeah, it's the ultimate collaborative game, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to give anyone the opportunity to please put questions in the chat box there. I'm more than happy to jump to your questions. Otherwise, you'll just hear us keep rabbiting on. So please do throw your questions up at any time. I guess that just led me to think about hearing the news yesterday. We've got the direct flight coming into from Kuala Lumpur back into Adelaide, and is that going to be a bit of a game changer from your perspective?
Yeah, the more aviation, the better. And Adelaide Airport is a strategic partner of Business Events Adelaide, and we provide them with information about where we're getting business from and where we're likely to. And then when they win something like this new airline, we look at the routes that connect through to Adelaide from Kuala Lumpur, and we can then chase business there. But interestingly, Tourism Australia put on through their Business Events Australia arm a big incentive event earlier in the year, and I was meeting with a number of Malaysian providers, and you know, one of the big things they were talking about is the food and what we can do to fit their various different needs for food. And there's a lot of these different countries that have different sort of backgrounds culturally and religious wise, and they need that sort of speciality. So it was good to learn about those Malaysian groups. The Malaysian groups sit around 100 to 150 for their 4 to 5 day incentives. They do 7 and 10-day incentives as well, but they would do 2 destinations for that. So come in and do a Sydney Gold Coast or a Sydney Adelaide, which is what obviously we would prefer. So that's great news. And we've got so many of them on the database. We obviously are sharing that airline is now coming to us, which is great.
Yeah, great. And obviously you've talked a fair bit about Asia being a key market. Do you also look to the other parts of the world as well, or primarily focused in Asia?
We've just come back from Frankfurt, where we've been at the biggest meetings trade show that exists, where there were 3,500 buyers. There is a fair bit of interest for Europe for the very small incentives, but mostly we get the big congresses out of those European connections. So, for example, with International Renewable Energy next April, thank goodness not right at the same time as Gather Round, that will be over 100 countries that are bringing people to that event. And because it's an international one with about 4,000 people, statistics tell us that 70% of international delegates extend their stay in the same destination. 30% of them will extend their stay in other destinations. And of that 70%, about half of that will go to a number of destinations. So being able to communicate on their website when it's live about all the wonderful things to do in South Australia, and through that connection with delegates, through the emails that we get the clients to send out, that can be really helpful. Now, when the operators see those people, they'll just see all these international people coming into their places, but it's good for them to be aware when those conferences are happening, so they can say, oh, are you in Adelaide for whatever it is? And then it really shows that team South Australia objective.
Absolutely.
Now,
I was going to ask,
have we got anyone from like more than 3 hours away on the chat at all? Is there anyone that's really far away? I did see on the RSVPs.
Oh, there we go. Biddy's there from Mount Gambier.
Yeah, okay. So it's really good for us to understand about the regions further away. So as an example, we had a group from New Skin, Taiwan earlier in the year, and we ended up flying their high-end people to Port Lincoln, being the seafood capital, etc. So there are occasions where the groups will go further afield. So it's really good for all of us, even though we're South Australians, to be up to date on all the regions. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. And just a very quick question from Gary. What's your website to go to?
businesseventsadelaide.com.au. Now, we did used to be called Adelaide Convention Bureau, but for many, many years. But people used to get us confused with the Adelaide Convention Centre, and generally the industry is talking about business events rather than MICE, which was another kind of expression that used to be used. So that Business Events Adelaide website is not very old. So by all means, give us some suggestions.
Yeah, and Kathy's just put that link in the chat there for you guys. I had a question in my mind and it's just disappeared. That's okay. Maybe Mark, let's give you a run. So imagine I'm a business that wants to get involved and chat further. What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I turn to?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to us. We're willing and happy to chat to anyone and just to work through options and opportunities. We really want to get a good understanding of your product and how that might work for us in future bidding opportunities. So certainly reach out to us. Happy to have a chat over the phone. We also go out into regions regularly. So if there's an opportunity that we're coming up to the Barossa or the Hills or one of the other regions, would love to come out and see and experience the product, feel the product. So that's initially. We also run our own trade events here through Business Events Adelaide. So those opportunities where you can come and meet with the buyers as well. That's part of the membership program. We also run familial programs, so we bring buyers into South Australia. So similar to, I guess, South Australian Tourism Commission and what they do with their events and familial programs, we do the same, but it's just with the events focus.
Yeah,
I
great.
did just attempt to put our details in the chat, but I think I only sent it to one person. So by all means, share that, Christina.
Absolutely. I was going to say we will share all your details.
Send emails,
afterwards.
mobiles, no problems. I guess the other thing is we do hold 2 events per year. One's called Destination South Australia, which is generally in March, where it's like a little mini trade show, if you like. There's some familiars around that, which I know some of the people on here have been involved with, but also you can come and just set up a booth, and I would recommend with smaller operators banding together and setting up something. We also do one in September, October that's called Connect. That is more for local Adelaide event buyers, even though that's not our scope. We do that as well. So those things will be on our website as well.
So that must be coming up in the next couple of months.
The membership side of it. So we're the business development side of the business. It's the membership side that does that. We're the ones that run around and win the business, and then it gets matched with the members. So we've got 4 people in international, Mark, Pumi, Casey and Helen. And then we've got 3 people in national. One looks after New South Wales, one looks after Victoria, one looks after the rest of Australia. We also have a research manager. So they spend all their time looking up the big events that we should go for. And then we've got the membership team as well. And we're on 74 Perry Street. So people are welcome to make a time and come in and say hi. Fabulous.
Got a couple of questions in the chat there. One of them's come to me directly, so you won't be able to see it, but it's from a very high-end tour company, and they're asking, is there any scope to work with very small groups at that executive or management level?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're particularly getting those from New Zealand, and we're just about to go to an event in August in Sydney called SITE, which is the Society of Incentive Travel something or others, and all the buyers from the eastern states who book those high-end groups, management retreats, etc., will be there. And we're going to be selling, obviously, South Australia as a whole, so I'm sure we'll get some inquiries out of that.
Great. Barossa Helicopters said they'd love to meet the team next time you're in the Barossa. So there you go.
Might be using you guys for something, aren't we? Something. Anyway, we'd love to meet you and hear all the Barossa.
Wonderful. And Kathy's popped a couple of questions there. And perhaps, Kathy, do you want to take yourself off mute? Because your first question, which is, would you broker an opportunity between business and hotels for brochures, etc.? Perhaps get you to elaborate on that one a bit more. Kathy, are you able to take yourself off mute?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, there we got you.
I don't have a mouse and all the rest of it. I'll take my video off, even though
Perfect.
I'm clearly working from home today. Just imagine me with my hair done, etc.
Hi, Kathy.
Absolutely.
Hi there. Hi. Yeah, sorry, I do have a few questions. So I was thinking, I work with from Grace PR. So I'm working and I'm here for the nature-based experience company, which is at the moment the tree climb activities. So they've got one in Adelaide, one in Kaipo Forest, one's coming out in Salisbury, and they actually have a number of nature-based adventure sort of programs that they're going to be launching the next 6 to 18 months. So there's a lot of activity going on in South Australia, including regional. So, which is why all my questions. And so I was thinking, you know, if there are hotels like the Hilton and, you know, all the other major hotels, you know, how they have those little brochures when you go in, and to work with their concierge and those sorts of things. Do you broker those opportunities to talk with those people, or is that something that we would do directly with them?
Okay, happy to talk more about this offline if you like. Our job is for group business, not individual business. And we win the business before they even come to South Australia. However, the Hilton and all those hotels are our gold members. So we hold member networking events every 8 weeks or so, and so certainly can introduce you to those people. In my experience, the best way of doing it is sucking up to all the concierge guys, and I think SATC, does, or even you guys, don't you do a concierge get together, Christina? Does somebody does?
TiCSA, no.
Okay,
Maybe
somebody does that.
AHA. Maybe AHA.
Maybe, but honestly, Kathy, I'm very interested in the other stuff you're talking about. And believe me, those tree climbs, if they could get, you know, one group of 100 coming in there on a Tuesday, they're going to love it. And that is exactly what we deliver. Yeah.
Okay. Terrific. And my other quick question was, are you seeing any trends coming from businesses coming out? Like, are they looking for certain specific things that you're starting to see as becoming a regular request?
Yes. So with the big conferences we bid for, they want to know all about sustainability. They love the fact that we're a walkable city. They love the fact that they can have kind of free tram transport in the city so that people don't have to spend extra money as well as create extra fumes. They're looking for activities that are not far away. So as you would know, even activities that are not far away in Sydney, it still takes you 45 minutes to go from Darling Harbour to Circular Quay. So they're loving that about Adelaide. One thing they're looking for, but I believe everyone's always been looking for this, is effective, efficient service, where the operator understands what they're looking for and provides a quote on what they're looking for. Time and time again, I am being told, oh gosh, there's so many new people in the industry, they're really not quite understanding what I'm looking for, Jackie. And then I have to play translator, and I'm talking about two people who speak English. So it's keeping it simple and hearing what they want and then being able to deliver what they're looking for. And then what we are finding is when we do win them for Adelaide and they leave, their expectations are exceeded. So I think Mark and I are in a very good position where we're flogging Adelaide as hard as we can, but then when we do finally win it, it's you operators out there that are doing such an amazing job. It kind of makes the whole repeat business really easy. It's just about getting them in the first place.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Our service in Adelaide, once the guest is there, is very good. It's that lead up and getting the quote right and understanding their needs that's a bit more challenging.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks for coming online. Please, if you have any more questions, keep popping them up there. That made me think of another question around, you know, and this is probably looking at it through the negative lens, but that's also a good way to learn as well. When do you have to turn operators down? Right? Have you got some examples of where you've had to say, look, you're not cutting the mustard. This isn't going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Making that decision. So for example, if a client comes to us, they've got 500 people, we've got to go out to a bunch of hotels, get prices, and then the client comes to Adelaide, does the site inspection, they're going to turn around and go, I'll pick 1 to 4, but I won't pick 5 because of this. And you'll probably notice by now I'm very transparent, so I will actually go back to the operator and say the client said this. Now, if somebody, if we go out for an incentive program and we say, you know, it needs to be high end and these people are used to absolute luxury, and someone provides something that I know is not going to be absolute luxury, I just need to tell them. And sometimes, you know, I can talk people into anything, but we do need to make sure that the customer walks away happy, basically.
Yeah, and to your point that their expectations are being exceeded by the time they leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I think it's just mostly trying to find the right fit for the client in the end. You know, what they're trying to get out of it, what's going to work for them and their delegates, because ultimately, you know, they want to get as many delegates attending their events as possible. So we really got to work hard to try and match those right products for their event and for their delegates.
Yeah. And I guess along the same lines, are there any common mistakes or misconceptions that businesses have when they're trying to engage business event delegates?
Yes, I think there is. So if you converted a group and they're coming to your place, it's really important you understand who they are. So if it is And we can tell you that. We can generally tell you gender, if still appropriate, age, you know, cultural background, etc., and then be prepared for that. So don't be surprised if it's a bunch of over 60s and they can't walk as fast as you, or don't be surprised if these people don't eat all the food on their table when they're on a 4-day incentive and getting like 5 meals a day. So yeah, those sorts of things. It's just it's 101. It's understanding the customer, and if you don't understand who they are, ask us, and we can let you know who they are.
Yeah, great. Yeah, really opening it up now to any more questions from the group online. I feel like I've asked a few. You're welcome to pop them in there or take yourself off mute and call your name out.
And Mark and I are happy to come, you know, to some of your wonderful networking events, so that now you've seen our faces. If you remember who we are, you're welcome to come and have a chat. That's always a great way of doing it. If anyone is interested in membership and wants to come to our next member networking event, I think you just got to look at the different organisations quite, you know, very, very separately. You know, this is your industry body that's presenting you this today. We are like an extra sales team, if you like, that potentially can help you.
Absolutely. Oh, here we go. This one's come directly to me again, but who or how would it be best to chat with you about the possibility of working together? So again, getting down to the
honestly, ring Mark or me, because
yep.
you've met us now. Let us understand a little bit about your business, and then we will quite honestly say to you whether you're going to get anything out of it or not, because we hate disappointing people, and then we'll pass you on to membership if you want to get engaged that way. And the very least of it, we've made a new friend.
Absolutely, and we'll share your contact details with everyone by email after this as well.
Thank you.
No worries.
While we wait to see if there's any more questions, I thought one rounding out question is, if you were to give our participants 3 things that they could do when they'd leave this webinar today, what would they be?
Okay, that would be, give us a call, but before you give us a call, know what you can do from a group perspective. And when we talk group, that means people buying as a group, so getting an invoice and prepaying, people arriving as a group, so being able to do whatever it is you do to people as a group, know your minimum and maximum capacities, and know your lead-in rate, because that's the kind of stuff we need to know to be able to sell you effectively. We need to know a wine tasting is $50 and you get to pat a kangaroo and get a photograph, and you can have a maximum of 30 people at a time for 20 minutes, and the other 30 people can be waiting somewhere else and then come through. Now, that's a pretty bad example, but that's the stuff we need to know, because we're selling a whole state. So we're never going to be the experts of your business. We're only going to be the experts of business events.
Yeah, great. Is there anything you think we haven't covered today, Mark and Jackie?
What do you reckon, Mark?
I think we've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I reckon we've done a good job.
I think, you know, from my perspective and coming from the Tourism Commission, I think it's just getting that clear understanding of, you know, the business event side versus the leisure side. And as Jackie's already pointed out, you know, the value of the business delegate coming into South Australia, you know, they're more valuable. They're going to travel during those non-peak times, and they're coming in groups. So I guess if you can cater to groups, we'd love to know, as Jackie mentioned, the capacities, what you can do, because, you know, you can make one booking with a group. It's going to save a lot more of your time and effort trying to chase 20 or 30 individual bookings. So, you know, the leisure trend is definitely more FITs, but we're in the business of doing groups. So if you're interested in groups, then reach out.
Yeah, and maybe make sure that on your own websites there is a section that kind of says what you can do for groups, even if it's very simple, and that people can click a button and email, or click a button and someone will answer the phone. I think that is probably my final comment. Even if you're a one-man operation, find a way to be able to answer the telephone or get back to an email, because so many people tell us in these day and ages, well, I didn't book that one because they just never got back to me.
Extremely wise and practical advice.
Connect with Mark and I on LinkedIn as well. If anyone's on LinkedIn, give us a call, email, text. We're around. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Christina. We'd like to probably do this every year if we can, because it really helps us and saves our time when the industry understands what we're trying to do. So thank you.
Absolutely. And look, my biggest takeout from this is what a powerful force of our tourism industry business events is. And it, you know, obviously the leisure and the sport and the events, it's very high profile and we hear all about it. But wow, what the business events is bringing to our state and the possibility it presents to our operators as well is just fantastic. So look, if I haven't had any more questions come through, last chance, you know, if you want to call out or put your hand up. But otherwise, I'd love to say a big thank you to Jackie and Mark for your time today. We haven't gone over time, which is brilliant. Everyone can grab a cup of tea and a sandwich before getting back to doing what you do. But thank you for your time, and that was super informative. And yes, we will send an email to everyone with Jackie and Mark's contact details and also a recording from this session as well. So if you want to go back and catch any of those hot tips, you can.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.